Working the graveyard shift as a security guard in a hospital requires a specific kind of mental fortitude. You have to get used to the sterile smell of antiseptic, the hum of industrial cooling systems, and the unsettling realization that you are often the only living soul in a wing where dozens have passed away. For a guard named Marcus, the job was a paycheck, until a rainy Tuesday night transformed the familiar corridors into something unrecognizable. The night began with a relentless downpour. Outside, a thunderstorm was hammering the city, leaving the emergency room uncharacteristically dead. Around 2 a.m., the silence was broken by a crackle on Marcus's radio. A nurse from the surgical floor sounded more irritated than scared. She claimed someone was messing around with the equipment. She reported the distinct, heavy rattling of a patient trolley being pushed down the hallway toward room 304. Marcus knew that wing was supposed to be empty. It had been closed off for 2 weeks for a plumbing overhaul. He made his way to the east wing, his flashlight cutting through the dim, energy-saver lighting of the corridor. When he rounded the corner, he stopped cold. The heavy metal trolley, which he had personally seen locked at the nurse station 10 minutes prior, was sitting perfectly centered in front of the door to room 304. The air in that specific hallway felt heavy, pressurized. As Marcus approached the trolley, he noticed the door to 304 was slightly ajar. From the darkness inside, a faint, rhythmic sound began to pulse. Tit, tit, tit. It was the patient monitor. Marcus pushed the door open just enough to see inside. The room was freezing, so cold he could see his own breath. The heart rate monitor was glowing a sickly green in the dark, the screen showing a steady, flat line. There was no patient in the bed. No one was even checked into the wing. Confused and feeling a rising sense of nausea, Marcus reached for the door handle to shut the room and call for backup. But before his fingers could touch the metal, the overhead fluorescent lights flickered and died. For several agonizing seconds, he stood in total, crushing darkness, hearing nothing but the electronic deadline beep of the monitor. When the backup generator finally kicked in with a dull hum, the lights hummed back to life. Marcus looked down the long, narrow hallway. At the very end, standing under a flickering bulb, was a figure. It was a man in a thin, pale hospital gown. His skin was a bruised, waxy gray, and his eyes were wide, staring fixedly at Marcus with a look of vacant intensity. An IV stand was gripped in his hand, the needle still taped into a vein on his forearm. The figure didn't speak. He simply tilted his head to the side, his neck snapping with an audible crack that echoed off the linoleum walls. Then, without warning, the figure lunged. It wasn't a normal run. It was a frantic, twitching sprint, the IV pole clattering violently against the floor as the entity closed the gap. Marcus didn't stay to investigate. He spun on his heel and bolted toward the security hub, his boots skidding on the polished floors. As he ran, his hands were shaking so violently he could barely hold his phone. He managed to trigger a voice memo, desperate to document the sounds of the pursuit before he reached the safety of the heavy security doors. The following morning, Marcus spoke with a veteran member of the cleaning crew. He learned that room 304 had been permanently shuttered after a patient suffered a violent, sudden seizure and died in the middle of the night exactly 1 year ago to the day. The staff claimed they could never get the electronics in that room to stay off. Marcus hasn't set foot in the East Wing since. The following audio is the voice note Marcus recorded while fleeing back to his post.
Okay, I'm recording this. My name is Marcus. If something happens, if I don't make it back to the desk, just look at the East Wing cameras. Just look at them. He's behind me. I swear to God, he's right behind me. I was at 304, but the room was empty, but the machine was screaming. I saw him, man. His face, he didn't have any color. He looked like a corpse. And he's fast. He's so fast, I can hear the wheels. I can hear that damn IV pole hitting the door. He's standing right outside the office. I can see his shadow under the door frame. He's just He's just standing there. Please. Someone answer the radio. Please.
We like to believe that once a heart stops beating on a monitor, the story is over. But Marcus learned that some patients never truly check out. They stay in the hallways they knew, waiting for a witness to acknowledge their presence. The next time you find yourself walking down a quiet, sterile hallway late at night, pay attention to the sounds behind you. If you hear the faint rattle of wheels on tile, don't turn around to check. Some things are better left unseen, and some doors are meant to stay closed. Sleep well, if you can.